Hello, Mosaic. I hope that you are off to an awesome start this week and that you've already gotten into the reading plan and are beginning to work your way through the scriptures for this week as we continue our study on judgment and mercy in the book of Isaiah. Up until this point, the first 3 weeks, we're dealing with God's judgment, first upon the people of the Jewish people, and then secondly, as He is master of the nations, upon the entirety of the world. Chapter 24 is kind of the culmination of that, as God hands out judgment upon the cities of the world. Chapter 25 is where we pick up reading this week, skipping over that 20 to 24, which was the continuation of judgment. Chapter 25 through 30 is kind of a juxtaposition or a comparison between two people as they sit underneath this pouring out of the wrath and judgment of God. So in chapter 25, what we have is a song that's being offered up of praise unto God for the realization of His long plan and His victory. The idea is that the people of God that have been faithful, even through suffering and even through hardships, surrounded by wickedness, the people that have been faithful to God begin to have their eyes opened and realize that God had never lost control, but that He had had a long plan in His mercy for the redemption of the world, and that there is this idea that the patient waiting in God, even in the midst of suffering, patient waiting is worth it. Chapter 26 continues these songs, and it is a song of peace. The peace that people would find by resting in God's work, instead of trying to work through machinations and through policies of government and all of these things to bring righteousness and fairness and justice into the world, that there is a song of peace in finding the rest in letting God do the work and we remain faithful unto Him. Chapter 27 is a song of redemption. As Israel and Judah, the two kingdoms, Judea had been divided out, and they are now being redeemed. They had fallen into this rebellion against God, but that God would ultimately be able to redeem them, as He does in our own sin-ridden souls. Chapter 28 goes back then to a talk or a homily about the foolishness of trusting in nations instead of trusting in gods. Remember, the thing that has brought all of this to pass is that Israel in the north and Judah in the south has been kind of trying to figure out how to handle the power dynamics in their area. And should we make a pact with Egypt to withstand Assyria? Should we make a pact with Samaria and Damascus against Assyria? How they should league themselves with nations around them to be able to survive. Israel, to the north, had already fallen to this foolishness, and they were devoured. And now it would be that the southern kingdom was about to find themselves devoured as well because of their foolishness in trusting in nations over trusting God. Chapter 29 recounts the horrors of the siege against Jerusalem as it begins to fall in judgment. And then chapter 30 brings out then the entirety of the point of these chapters that we're reading this week, the comparison between the two people. They're all underneath some suffering. They're all facing the horrors of war. They're all sensing the judgment of God being poured out. But there are those who have been faithful and who have remained committed unto their God as everyone else around them rebelled. And there are those who have scurried to try and maintain their style of life of rebellion by leaguing themselves up with other people and other nations on earth. Chapter 30 shows that foolishness and tells them, do not go down to Egypt. See, that's their plan and their thought. We're going to go to Egypt and we're going to find protection against Assyria, and then we can keep living the way we want to live in rebellion against God. And ultimately that is doomed. God is telling them, be like these in chapter 25, 26, and 27 that are singing songs of joy and of praise and of peace and of redemption, because though they passed through the fire, they remained faithful to me. Do not go down to Egypt. Stay in my hands, and I can give you peace that passes all understanding and bring you redemption to your soul. God bless. I hope you enjoy the reading, and I hope God speaks greatly to your heart this week.